Welcome to the Southern U Podcast, brought to you by Darden Archery on the OKest Podcast Network, with your co-host Matt Brock, Jeremy Ferguson, and Taylor McMurtry. If you're looking for all things land-related in the Southeast, you came to the right place. Whether it's real estate, habitat, wildlife, or just being outdoors, this is the place for you. Welcome to the Southern U. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Southern U Podcast, where we talk all things land-related in the Southeast. My name is Taylor. Across from me is Jeremy, and you'll notice there is no Matt Brock here.
Thankfully. At least somebody's out making money.
No, Matt is out making money elsewhere, I guess. He's burning something to the ground, or he's spraying herbicide, burning something to the ground.
I think they're burning today.
Yeah, probably are burning today.
Yeah, we're behind, and of course I'm not in the sling today.
I know. It's improvement.
Yeah, some
Progress.
improvement, but yeah, they're Matt and Bray and Buddy Cody and some other folks are all kind of jumping in to help because we've got so much going on, and I'm down. I'm still limited, headed to therapy today. So, but
For sure.
Thankfully, got some folks to help pull my lazy, sorry weight around that I'm not getting done. So
Right.
It's great. But yeah, I think him and maybe Bray and buddy of ours, Chris Cook. I think they're all down Tuscaloosa area burning today, I believe.
Yep, they got lots of stuff to burn. I know whenever hunting season actually rolls around and some of that stuff slows down, they'll probably be happy. They'll probably be thankful that there's not quite as much to burn and quite as much to on top of.
I don't see things slowing down much right now.
Matt's gonna get in the woods though. Matt's gonna kill stuff. He's not gonna let
opening day of
bow season.
opening day of bow season. I'm here to tell you, Matt Brock's priorities shift greatly. From making money and all that, it shifts to I would probably have to throw. He's still, good Lord, still number one in his life, But I would say hunting comes in, and then his family falls to a distant third.
Well, I think that probably that's the same scenario for a lot of us. When hunting season rolls around. It's funny because I have been busy and trying to get projects out and get deadlines, make sure that they get met for some of my stuff, and I've not really had the itch. Like, it's weird because normally this time of year I'm like, oh man, I need, can't wait to start getting dialed in, going through my gear, making sure everything is safe, and making sure my stuff is on, my equipment's on, and like I've just kind of been like in a work mode, not really thinking about it. And then we had that little cool snap over the weekend.
Oh man, it feels right.
Oh man, now I'm chomping at the bit again. Now I'm like, oh yeah, this is what it's normally like this time of year. So I'm hoping that if we get some cool weather closer to opening day, that translate into getting one on the ground. I think I've only killed a deer on opening day one time in my life.
Oh really?
Yep. I mean, granted, I hunt terrible places most of the time.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just not very good, but I've only killed one on opening day once.
I've never killed one on opening day in Alabama. Now, Tennessee, when we were hunting there, I did numerous times. So, But yeah. Well, the old wing is keeping me down.
Yeah.
I just look at my bows over there in the corner and just like, oh man.
Miss you.
Yeah. It's probably good though. I mean, I spend most of my early fall in Kansas generally, and being that I can't do any hunting, I probably won't spend as much time there. I mean, obviously we'll be up there guiding and doing all that, but my wife's going to get to see me a little more this fall.
Yeah, she's probably not mad about that.
She's not.
Normally.
And look, neither am I. It's about time to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny how you can either slow down or your body will make you slow down.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a choice sometimes.
Yep, I got the forced slow down.
Yep, I know. I'm bad about because a lot of the stuff I do is, digital and video and stuff like that. I'm bad about working all day and then, kids get home from school, wife gets home from work, eat supper, hang out with them, whatever, and then when everybody goes to bed, fire the computer back up and start working again until whatever, 1 o'clock in the morning. And you do that for a few days in a row and it's okay. But you do that for a week or two in a row and then your body's like, hey, you're gonna go to sleep. Yeah. you're gonna have to give this a break. And so it just is what it is. But anyways, before we jump into the actual topics, did want to let you guys know that we've got some stuff coming down the pipe here pretty soon, and I know we've been talking about this for a long time and feel like this big announcement we've been, waiting to share is never going to happen, but we're actually getting close, and we're excited about that. Please stay tuned. Please stick with us. I know it's kind of been a journey for all of us and probably more annoying for you than it is for us, but it's been frustrating for us too, just to try to, we just want things to be done right and want it to work the way that we want it to work and look the way we want it to look. And part of that's my fault, but I think you guys are going to have something here in the next, hopefully, I don't know, I dare say a time, but hopefully 6-ish weeks, maybe. If we can get it all together. And if that happens, then we'll let you know. But
needless to say, it's moving forward.
It is, yeah, and more progress than we've seen in a while. So before we jump into, did want to give a shout out to, with it being bow season coming up here soon, we give a shout out to Dart and Archery. We just got all of our new rigs. Sorry, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Got our new rigs in, and really, really excited about this year's. Just from an equipment standpoint, it's not a whole lot different than what Darton had put out last year, but we were all very, very pleased with how our equipment performed last year. We all shot the Sequel 33, and I'm really glad that they didn't go away from that platform because it was a shooter. It was a pleasant shooting experience, nice draw cycle, back wall is great, minimal vibration on the shot. So
that'll be a bow that'll stay in my stable for a long time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't mind selling a bow every now and then, but I don't know that I really want to get rid of that bow because I had success with it in Texas and Alabama, and I don't know. But yeah, this year's, the 2025 version is the ST2. And it's got some built-in tuning features in the bow. One is for arrow flight, making sure that you get, perfectly, if you're shooting through paper, you'll get a bullet hole. You can make some really fine micro adjustments without having to press the bow, which is cool.
Which is awesome.
Oh yeah, really cool. The bow, a guy on TikTok tried to call me out. The bow does have shims. I didn't say it didn't have shims. It has shims, but you don't have to shim the cam most of the time because you're able to put these finite adjustments in their tuning system without having to press the bow. So yes, you can still shim the cams if you have to, but no, you don't normally have to do that. And they also have a built-in timing feature, which is really cool. Most of the time, if you guys are bow nerds like I am, you have to actually press your bow and put twist in your cables to get your timing right with a dual cam bow. Well, you don't have to do that here most of the time because there's a little set screw in this mechanism they have. It's called their perfect timing system. Loosen up the set screw, and then you can actually twist the cable with the little mechanism on the bow, and it without having to actually press it. And you can put a half, typically when you press a bow, you've got a half twist or a whole twist, and that's the only options you got. With this, you can do a 1/8 of a turn, you can do a 1/4 of a turn, a 32nd of a turn. You can actually dial it in, make it absolutely perfect. So that's really cool. And again, you don't have to press the bow to do it. So, and it's still the Sequel 33, same riser, same cam system, it's going to be smooth and it's going to be a shooter. So,
and let's face it, for folks that want to argue with you, it's going to be Ford, Chevrolet, Dodge.
Oh yeah, sure.
Everybody's got their own preference. Yep. They're going to find something wrong with what you say.
Yep, of course. But check them out if you're still. I know we're kind of getting down to the wire for opening day for a lot of people, and some of the Midwestern states have already opened up. But for those of us in the South, still got a little while. If you're looking at getting a rig, I would highly recommend just go shoot one. Go to a pro shop, get one off the wall, and just blast a few arrows through it and see what you think. Because I think you'll be surprised. These guys have gained a lot of momentum in the last 2 years.
I've been seeing them in some of the larger, more popular bow shops recently. In places that had never carried, darting equipment.
Yep, for sure.
And a couple buddies of mine that got big shops, they picked them up. There's a lot of moving and shaking in the archery world. Always is, but there's been some big changes last year or so.
Yeah, absolutely. And once I get my rig fully set up, I'll do an in-depth video and just kind of like the features of the bow, and then also kind of why I'm shooting what I'm shooting, if you guys want to see that, and see kind of if you look at my bows I've shot the last couple of years, probably might make you scratch your head a little bit because they don't look like the way that a lot of people outfit their bows, but there's a method to the madness. So we'll check it out.
Well, go ahead and spill the beans. Are you one of those guys that feel like you got to shoot a deadgum tree trunk with a battle axe on the end of it, or are you moderate weight?
No, it's moderate. I've gone on both ends of the spectrum. I've never been a guy that has shot. I've never shot like a 650 grain arrow or anything like that. But I have shot as heavy as about 560, 565, something like that. I've also shot as light as about 365.
Yeah.
And have killed deer with all of them. I'll say the odds of me ever going that light ever again is probably over with. Right. I don't think I'll ever do that again because I'm notorious for hitting deer in the shoulder, like in the scapula, and I don't try to, I don't want to. It just kind of happens, and I've just noticed that going to a ultra sharp, like really really sharp one piece head, a tip, preferably a 2-blade, but it doesn't have to be, and going to something that's got not necessarily crazy weight, but just moderate FOC. I actually, these arrows that I'm going to set up now will be a little bit lighter than what I shot last year just because of the focus system. The focus system last year by itself weighed 100 grains. This one is going to weigh, I think it weighs like 58 grains or something. So it's a little lighter. It's an aluminum version, but last year I shot an arrow that weighed about 460 grains or so.
I think that's about where I was.
Yeah, something
roughly.
like that, with a 125 grain broadhead. And I mean, nothing ever thought about
slowing it down.
Yeah, I mean, blowing through animals in Texas, here in Alabama, no problem at all. And so I was fortunate to make good shots on those animals too, but it's not always the case. But yeah, that's about where I'm at on that. And I couldn't tell you what my bow shoots as far as speed. I don't know. I know that I shoot a 200 or a 29-inch draw and 70 pounds of draw weight on my hunting stuff, and so anyways, it seemed to have worked for me so far. But
that's what matters.
That's right. Sorry, I got a text. Y'all. Sorry.
Oh man, look at him.
Sorry.
Always working.
No, this is my wife.
Well,
I'm checking. Got to check on that. But anyways, Jeremy, you got a shout out before we jump in?
I do, and nobody can beat me to it this time.
There you go.
I got to shout out my wife.
Hey.
Let me tell you, Mary has been a trooper through this shoulder surgery. We've got a lot going on personally and professionally, both her and I. Mm-hmm. And it has been a trying time for me to be down as hard as I was for, maybe a week or so, and not able to get out, be self-sufficient. It was tough. And she has a heart of gold, apparently. First, what she does for a profession, and then two, dealing with my stubborn butt, trying to do things I shouldn't do, and all that kind of stuff. So definitely, she's what probably keeps us going.
Yeah, well, no doubt. It's the case for most married men, I would think. Is
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And I will give a quick shout out to. Look, I realize I do this stuff for a living. I will not claim to be any kind of guru or somebody that has all the answers, but for whatever reason, we have an abundance, a surge over the last 2 days of specifically Facebook followers that have been engaging with us and following our Facebook page on Southern U. I wish I knew why. I wish I knew what the cause for all that was, because I would bottle it up and sell it, but I don't. But I just want to say thank you to you guys that are new to Southern U and maybe the first time checking us out, first time giving us a follow or engaging with any of our content. We really appreciate that because I don't know. I think in the last two days we have gained somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2,000 followers in 2 days or close to it, and it's not slowing down. I mean, we're getting notifications as I'm sitting here of people following us. So.
And it's really interesting to see what takes off.
Yeah, you guys are quite interested in the price of beef.
Yeah,
turns out.
and let me tell you, it's not any better. I just recently sold, and I run a different look, different breed cattle than Dad, and mine were good. I averaged somewhere around $2,000 a head, like we talked about on the video, but. Dad runs a lot of black and white baldies, which, bring a little bit more. And he sold the last load that we'll sell for the year. And his average, was 2,100 a head.
Man.
He sat through the sale, and what blows my mind is what and smaller weight calves, always tend to be a little higher, but 3-weight up to mid 3-weight calves, we're bringing right at $5 a friggin' pound. Look, guys, steak's about to be unattainable for the average guy.
That's so crazy.
It's crazy what cattle prices are doing, and I'm still seeing people buy and get in. Have at it, guys. If you got the money to buy and get in, go for it. Yep. I'm going to hold steady.
Yeah.
We're going to keep static. We're going to see what happens. We're riding this wave out. If it holds strong for a while, great. Maybe we've got plenty of acres to run more. We may get in the stocker game if it stays steady, but I'm going to sit back this winter and just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, the balloon's going to pop. I mean, I don't know when that happens. I don't have a clue. I'm not claiming I've got any kind of answers for that.
Me
but
either.
At some point, it's going to crash, and
we're not big enough in the cattle industry to study the markets as closely as guys that make a living. Look, it started out as hobby farming for us, and it got a little bit bigger just simply because I bought a farm that was close by too, and we wanted to do things as close to right as we could. We don't work those farms like full-time farmers do, and so we realize that we're not going to produce the kind of results that they produce. But I sit back and look at all the things happening that I have some experience with. You take cattle prices, for example, and then you look at production agriculture, what's going on with the soybean market. The level of uncertainty just around the ag arena right now is troubling.
Mm-hmm.
Forestry no different. The pine market is just, who knows? Mill closures all over the Southeast. I think there's been, it's 3 decent sized mills that have closed in relatively close succession just here in the Southeast. And that impacts everybody. You may not think we're in North Alabama. You may not think of Southwest Alabama or Southwest Georgia mill has any impact on us, but it's a domino effect. I mean, it affects the mills that's close to them, which affects the next run of mills, which affects ours. And I'm unsure of where we're headed in the forestry industry.
Yeah,
I really am, especially up here where land holdings aren't really large, and we're primarily kind of rough hardwood. We get into pine here in North Alabama in the flatter areas, but it's definitely uncertain where we're headed. I've told people, my clients and loggers and foresters that we work really closely with, just the way I see it, I don't see it lasting. What the industry staying as it is, not that it's going away, but it's going to have to go through a fundamental change for it to stay around and be as productive as it has been. I've told our loggers that, the way I see this going right now from a consulting side is it's almost going to get to a point where a logger is a service provider versus somebody that's removing a product and paying the landowner for the product. I think it's going to be the product that they remove pays for a portion of the job that the loggers do. If something doesn't change, that's almost where we are, because trucking is so expensive, logging rates are so high, insurance rates, just continue to go up. Definitely an unsure time.
No doubt. Yep, I guess we can jump off the gloom and doom or uncertainty and talk about something we do know about.
Amen.
So today's episode is a little bit, maybe a little different than stuff that we typically talk about, but it's something actually Jeremy ran into, yesterday, actually, I guess? Or
yesterday, and look, it's been a constant. This is something that we run into constantly, but yesterday it really it really kind of hit me in the face. It was like, man, there's a lot going on here on this place, and they're headed in the right direction, but there's no real way to see where we've come from to know what kind of successes we've had up until this point. I mean, I have an idea simply because I know what I'm looking at, and that's maybe a little pompous to say, but I understand what's happening, on the landscape fairly well. But from a landowner perspective or just a service provider perspective, who we were talking about with the landowner there yesterday, is we have to have some key targets. Otherwise, we don't really know where we're headed, where we've made it to. So tracking progress is
so basically keeping records.
That's it.
Being able to keep records for really anything that you're trying to do to improve your habitat or your herd, I guess would probably be a good way to say that.
Absolutely. Look, and the fact of the matter is, anything you do, you need to keep records. I mean, look, this podcast is not about business, but hey, if you're a business owner, you better be tracking what you're doing so that when you have failures, you know why you had that failure. And when you have successes, you know why you have had those successes.
Or if you even had success at all.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of times I've sat through some business coaching type stuff, and you'll hear people say a goal that I have for the upcoming year is to increase sales by 30%. And it's like, okay, well, how would you know if you hit that mark or not? Do you have your previous year's numbers? No, I didn't keep up with it. Okay, well, then how would you know?
Exactly.
I mean, I guess, your bank account may look a little better or something, but
it's all anecdotal.
Yes. And so it's the same way with even with managing a deer herd, or a turkey population or whatever. We were talking about it yesterday. You may have a year where like, oh man, this was a great year. I killed 3 bucks on my farm this year. Man, what we're doing is killing it. That could have been completely random.
Yep.
The habitat improvements that you did or didn't do may have no bearing on that at all. You could have just had, what time of year did you harvest those bucks? Were they traveling from a different property
That's
and
right.
happened to pass
through
yours?
Were you strictly lucky because of the rut?
Yes.
The right doe ran in front of you.
Exactly. So trying to keep track of where you've been is the best indicator to know, where you've gone, I guess, whatever. So I guess we're just going to kind of talk through some of that and not just the importance, but maybe like some practices and things like that can be done throughout your progress. Because the part in this equation that people, I won't say forget, but people maybe aren't quite as mindful of is like all of these type things to some degree cost money. And so if I'm spending money, I kind of want to know
where it's going.
Yeah. Am I getting a return for this, or am I just going to indefinitely spend money and just kind of hope for the best? I want some sort of way to measure my return. So if you're burning, in your property, if you're planting food plots, if you're spraying herbicide, like all that stuff takes money and a lot of effort, a lot of sweat equity too. So make sure you have a way to measure it. So I guess maybe let's just talk about like one that we have encountered, and even especially like going to Texas, about like supplemental feeding, those sort of things. I mean, there are people out there that will spend a dump truck load of money on supplemental feed and have no idea
whether or not they've made a gain.
Yeah. And so I guess could we talk about maybe just that? Just let's talk about feeding, supplemental feed type stuff.
Yeah. Well, number one, and we talked about this yesterday, number one, supplemental feed should be consistent. Okay? So get that out of the way. If you're going to supplementally feed, do it consistently. But, you need to track by month and by feeder, how much is being used. Because one, if you start managing habitat differently on your property and you're still running feeders, or you're going to start running feeders or anything associated with the supplemental feed, what we're trying to do with habitat management is reduce your reliance on that supplemental feed, which, thereby, drops your bottom line because you're having to spend less on supplemental feed in the long run. But if you don't know how much feed you're using in these locations per month, then you've got no way to know if your improvements are actually helping your target goal, which is reducing your feed bill, which is, it's a side goal, obviously. Herd health should be number one. But, this is a business. We're going to try to save you money if we can. But track it by feeder location, track it by month, or if you're feeding them bi-monthly or weekly, whatever. Just track it and see what your utilization rates are. One thing that I would also recommend to everybody, because all feeds are not made the same. I know there's great nutritionalists out there with all of these feed companies. I still like to, if I'm going to be buying a metric ton freaking feed, if I'm buying a buttload of feed, I'm going to take samples and I'm going to send them off and have them tested myself.
Yep.
I want to see, I want to ensure that what's on that bag is actually, from a nutritional standpoint, actually what I'm going to get. And then a lot of times you will see that these feeds are actually really close together. And I'm not going to get into the finer details, of the total digestible nutrients, acid, detergent, fiber, the whole nine, because we can go down a huge rabbit hole, and I'm not a nutritionalist. Okay. But I would do that as well to see, if that extra $3 a bag is worth it. If I were swapping to a feed from one to another, I want to track my utilization rates. I want to see if, the deer seem to not prefer this particular feed for some reason or other. So all of these things you need to keep in mind and track, because they do affect, primarily your expenses. But number two, if you're using a feed the way we want you to be using the feed, which is you've done everything else right.
Yeah, it's a supplement.
Yeah. Now let's see if we can make incremental gains using this feed. If you're inconsistent or you're using a poor quality or a variety of different factors could cause this, but your consumption rates or your utilization is not where it need to be, we may not get that incremental little jump that we're after. So we need to know that. And landowners primarily going to be enclosures is where you're going to see people needing to track this. If you're in a free range situation, you're not going to impact your deer herd a whole heck of a lot with supplemental feed. By all means, have at it, do it. There's feeder companies and feed companies out there that need your money. Have at it. It's not going to have a huge health benefit.
Right. Well, and I know, like you kind of said it a minute ago, that enclosures are more apt to track this kind of stuff to that degree than a free range herd. But I thought it was very, very interesting. And I'm not saying that the average person is going to do this, but when we went to Texas, in their research pens, the ones that where there were high fences, they could tell you how old a deer was, how much feed that deer had consumed in its life, and how many pounds of feed have gone into that animal throughout the course of its life, and from which location it got it from.
That's right.
Now, granted, I don't think that's feasible for a wild deer herd and, for the average person to do. But they were able to go, that deer out there eats whatever, 3 pounds of, supplemental feed every day, and it gets it from that feeder on the north side of the property, whatever. Yeah. And they are able to recall and track, like, I know exactly how many dollars I've got in that deer.
Yes.
Right
there. And that, all of that has come, from really the agriculture industry, cattle industry. These guys that are growing these calves out on feedlots, they know down to the dime what it takes to get those stockers, off the feedlot, or stockers onto the feedlot, and then off the feedlot to the market at what weight they want. Deer is such a business in Texas that's how far they've come there.
Yep.
We're not there by and large anywhere else other than in inside enclosures.
No, I agree, and I already said it, but when the supplemental feed game, if you're going to spend that kind of money, make sure that you have done all that you can. I know we all have budgets. We've all got things that factor into our decisions, and we're not able to just go spend, endless amounts of money aimlessly. But if you're going to spend whatever your budget is, make sure you've done the habitat work first and then go the feed route. Because like Jeremy was saying earlier, just listen to him and Bray and Matt, some of these other guys we've had on the podcast talk. It's really, you're going to have very minimal gain in a perfect scenario.
Right.
With a bad scenario, you'll have almost nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
And
you spent a lot of money. Yes,
you spent a lot of money and not a whole lot of gain for that. So it is meant to be a supplement. I think from what I've heard you guys say over and over is, if you're relying on a bag of feed to add 50 inches of antler to your bucks, like that's just not gonna happen.
Nope.
But if you can provide, forage and stuff that they need and native browse, and then supplement that with some kind of high quality feed, then maybe that makes sense.
Yep. Look, Matt, I'm not going to give him much credit most of the time, but the name of his business is absolutely right. Habitat first.
Yep.
You should always worry about your habitat first. Look, I get it. Some of you don't own the land. You can't work on the habitat.
That's right.
You're SOL. Do what you can, hunt, enjoy it, and don't get too caught up in it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have the ability, always, always, always work on the habitat first.
Yep, for sure. As far as that's kind of supplemental feeding and those type things, but I guess can we talk about moving from there to maybe like other means of habitat improvement, like prescribed fire?
Yep.
Now, granted, I understand that most landowners are not just torching their entire landscape every time that they burn.
Yep. That's right.
It's in sections or blocks or that sort of thing. But most people aren't going to just forget, like, oh, yeah, I forgot that I burned that section of, but depending on how much land you have.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Some of you larger landowners out there may go, well, I know that we burned it.
Was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, was that 2 or 3 years ago? What rotation do I want? So, can we talk about why that's important too, to kind of make sure that rotation is
and it's even deeper than just the rotation. I talked with the guys yesterday. Big beautiful tract down in southeast Alabama, inside an enclosure, doing a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things right. Just needs some tweaking. But when you're burning, and folks that have burned a long time, Matt and I and John Stivers and the CFM guys down south, they do a great job of keeping records. But every time you light a fire, you should, number one, you should have a burn permit. If you did a burn permit, you should probably have a plan. Mm-hmm. But on that plan, you should always be tracking your weather conditions. And by that I mean temperature, humidity, wind, how you lit the fire as far as your ignition type, whether it was head fire, flank fire, spot fire, however you did that. And then you also need to keep detailed tracks of exact timing. Because depending on what time of year you burn, you may have different results. Mm-hmm. If you burn in the fall, you're going to have different results than if you make a dormant or burn a dormant season fire. You're not going to have the same impact on the plant community at burning at those different times. But I am very interested in, and I've started keeping track. I used to just keep track of the date. And I didn't really pay attention to the response that we were getting just in swapping up dates 2 or 3 weeks. Mm. I was just worried about sections of the year. But I have gotten very interested to the plant responses based off of, even down to the week of what's burning. Because on your landscape, and this is where the records are important, you may have certain flowering species that need fire, serotinous seeds that need fire to germinate and things like that. And they may be mature on your place at a little different time. Mm-hmm. So keeping sharp enough records to go out and go, okay, hey, just throwing one out there. The Coreopsis is blooming, at this particular time. We want to burn after that. Mm-hmm. Or hey, we know this field's got Johnson grass and, it's generally seeding out, about this time. We want to get in there and we want to try to nuke that stuff before it puts a seed head on and get it off. Or, fescue, the same thing, late fall burn because we want to impact it so that we can spray it again, next spring to try to, mm-hmm. rid a pasture of fescue. All of these things are vital to know. And when you've gone in and done a lot of these management practices and then you run into a problem as a landowner and then you call somebody, like me or Matt or any of the various other folks out there and be like, look, I've been doing great, but I've kind of stalled and I don't know why. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to have some decent ideas, but if we have a detailed account for what you've done for the last several years of how you lit it, all the weather conditions you burned under as far as temperature, humidity, the whole nine, what was there when you burned, mm-hmm. as far as what fuel was there primarily. Just all of those details matter.
Yeah.
So it's it helps, us from a professional standpoint when somebody has reached, their plateau of what they know and can do on their own and they need to hire somebody else. We have the ability to go back and look through their records and go, aha, right here. This is what you need to change. You burned your longleaf just a little bit early or a little bit late, and that's why you're not seeing the response that you want to see, or you're seeing this response, which is a negative response. So it helps more so of, telling you where you've come from and where you're headed, but a lot of times it helps you identify where you've stalled.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean, I think something I really never thought about before is that you were talking about what species you would like to be there, and which ones you don't want to be there necessarily. And so if you're trying to remove something, you might want to burn it a certain time of year. If you're trying to promote the growth of something else, then you might want to burn it at a different time, whatever.
And I don't know where you're headed with questions because you never tee us up, but same thing with chemical applications. Mm-hmm. There are great publications out there. There's tons of good information on Facebook, podcasts, and a variety of things that are put out these days. But vet your sources. Mm-hmm. Trust but verify. But a lot of people, they think about privet control. That's a big one here in the Southeast, and there's, it's out there, but the average guy that's not consuming this information a lot doesn't know that you don't have to get out there and sweat your rear end off trying to treat privet in the fall. Matt's out there treating hardwoods, or has been the last few days with hack and squirt crews. It's the right time of year. Those trees are starting to pull everything down in the root, store for winter. This is the time you apply chemicals to those. Mm-hmm. It's going to have your greatest effect. Well, privet, look, you can do it now, but it's an evergreen. Mm-hmm. Why go out there and make your life tough and do things when it's hot, when there's still ticks and chiggers and the whole nine? Man, go treat that privet in December, January, February, whatever. It's evergreen. Yep. You can go out there and absolutely hammer privet when everything else is dormant. You can be liberal with your herbicide, really, really soak those things down, and you're not going to negatively impact your surrounding vegetation. Right. So, and I talked about the fescue a while ago. You want to treat fescue late in the fall and then again early in the spring. But fescue's tough, but generally 2 or 3 hits, and we use disc and fire and herbicide all, with fescue. But using any of those methods at the right timing, you will be very, very successful quickly. Mm-hmm. Man, you go out there and try to get rid of fescue in the summertime, not going to happen. Right. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to have a great impact. Or you're going to have to treat it multiple times versus hitting it when it's at the state that it's, most optimal, right, for success.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like anything else. If you spend enough money, you can do it whenever you want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you want to treat it 4 or 5 times during the summer or something like that, I mean, you can, but it's probably unnecessary.
Right.
So, most of us have budgets and we want to try to operate inside of those.
That's right.
Those type things. With, I guess, kind of that same thought there, let's talk a little bit about moving over maybe from fire and, herbicides and stuff. Let's talk about like planning and food plots and those sort of things. If that's something that most people are.
This is a big one because this is something almost every private land hunter does. Whether you're hunting your own land or you're hunting leases or whatever it is. If you're hunting private land, most people are doing some type of food plot activity. Mm-hmm. Um,
well, it's one of the few things that even if you lease land, they will allow a leaseholder to do.
That's right.
You know, most people are not going to say like, no, you can't come in here and spray a bunch of herbicide, or you can't go clear out, cut timber off my property, or you know what I mean, stuff like that. But hey, can I plant a food plot? Like, oh, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
I'll let you do that.
Yeah, food plots. The reason it's so important is to me are these guys that are doing a lot of this are not your huge landowner. You know, your big landowners, look, they can handle some setbacks monetarily, over hunting season. But the average weekend warrior, limited time, limited resources,
sure,
generally. So why would you not track when you've had failures and when you've had successes? A big thing is that I see in the South. I'm not talking about you Midwesterners or Northerners. I think you guys are already planting, which have at it. But we have a ton of people that will. I mean, even down into the deep South, South Alabama, South Georgia, they'll start planting around Labor Day. Well, if they've got half a skill on a computer, you can get on there and check, and on average, this part of the country's driest month is October.
Mm-hmm.
So why in the world are you going to go out and establish a green field, take the time that you really don't have, take the resources that are very, very limited, and put seed, fertilize, lime, whatever in the ground, knowing that the upcoming month is our driest month?
Right.
Also, we're battling army worms this time of year. Generally, not everybody's going to have army worms, but you're going to end up seeing generally a couple hatches of army worms a year. Those are risks that are, to me, not worth taking. Now, us deep south guys, a lot of folks work, offshore and things like that, and look, they're gone for weeks and weeks at a time. I get it. If it's the only time you can do it, okay, maybe it's worth the risk. But I don't understand why you would want to have the ability to go out and look these things up. You don't even have to keep the record yourself. Everybody else is doing it for you on weather and army worms. All you got to do is look. Mm-hmm. I don't understand putting your own back up against the wall close to a failure. But get off of that soapbox into the soil samples. It's the number one thing you should be doing. Mm-hmm. Take your dadgum soil samples. All soil samples are not the same. Get a good one. You can use the basic ones to kind of see where you are kind of in a fairly narrow scope, and then maybe get some stuff ordered. Say you're going to need some lime based off of these little cheap at-home tests you can do. Just say you're deficient. So prepare yourself for that, but still send the soil sample off and get exacts. But track that year over year. You need to see whether or not your buffer pHs or your base saturations are improving. If they're not, you've got something going on, or you're doing something improperly. You've got folks like Al at Vitalize, you got Jody at Whitetail Institute, you got folks at Waters Lab, Waypoint Analytical, Auburn University, your state ag university's got all these resources that can help you, but they can't if you can't tell them where you started,
right,
and where you are now and how you got there. Mm-hmm. You've got to give these folks some idea of how you got to where you are for them to really help you.
Right. Well, I mean, establishing a baseline for anything, it doesn't matter what it is, knowing a baseline of or, whatever. This is the first year I had this property.
Yep.
Okay, well, I didn't do anything once I got here, but I just took a soil sample. This is the first year I've had access to it. And now from here on out, I know where we started at least.
Yes.
And that's a huge part of the equation when you're trying to figure this stuff out. And, not knowing, was this the result of somebody before you adding the wrong, stuff like to your soil? Like, was that like I know you guys talk about it a lot of times, buying the 13, just call it a day,
Yeah.
just throw it out there, and maybe that'll help. And I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it don't.
And look, the fact is, it could be better than nothing, but it might not be.
Right.
You may be your soil may be way overloaded in something that you just added more to,
right.
that's going to cause you a little bit of a problem. You need to know your basics so that you have a stepping stone or a platform to start from.
Yeah.
And then tracking that. But, me, if I'm going to be out like what we do for planting clients, we do soil samples every year. I take them the same time every year. I track I don't track it by the pound. We're tracking by the units of actual fertilizer that's going down. It's just, better way to do it, in my opinion. And we're going to track every change that we've had in base saturation, whether our CEC is changing, whether our buffer pH is changing. We're gonna track all that so that we know exactly where we stand. And a reason for that is like this year on the project that everybody's seen us work on here close to home, the Cedar Mountain project. We had a total crop failure. But I know why. And it got nothing to do with the soil. They got too daggum many deer.
Yeah.
And look, you can go out there and look, it's easy with your eyes to see that, hey, all these beans are nipped off. But you don't know at what level those beans were performing. Were they stunted? Were they slow? What was happening that may have allowed these deer to overgraze, overbrowse these particular plants.
Right.
Well, based off of our soil samples, we got things right. I mean, we're in that narrow scope I could almost say this is perfect.
Yeah.
It's not, but we're real close.
Yeah, close as we get.
Yes. And we got wiped out. And that's even with great habitat. So, there's a lot of deer numbers, and of course, I think I posted videos. A lot of turkey numbers too. Mm-hmm. So turkeys really wearing out our seed as they were going in the ground. I mean, I took video of several longbeards as I'm drilling beans. Literally could take a cattle prod or a dang stick, open the door on the cab of the tractor and whack a turkey in the head as they're scratching my beans up as I'm putting them down. I'm like, yeah, I love turkeys, but dang, y'all are a problem right now for me. But yeah, so tracking that so that you can be able to confirm the anecdotal evidence that you're seeing is key, especially if you're doing something from a professional standpoint. And if hunters, these clubs, if you will treat it as a kind of a side profession and really keep tabs on your dollars, you can save money.
Well, and I was going to say that when you said professional, because like for example, what I do for a living a lot is I run digital ads for my clients. Mm-hmm. Well, if I want to continue working for that client, I'd better show my worth. So I say, hey, this is where you were at in terms of dollars, sales, engagement, whatever it is that we're doing before I got here. Mm-hmm. And then you hired me 3 months later, this is where we're at. Like, I need to be able to show you, like walk you through, this is where we were at and this is where we are now. Yes, I'm worth the money. I'm worth spending the money on. And, with I don't know how many biologists or land managers listen to our podcast, but if that's you, it's the same deal. You're literally taking these records to show your clients, I'm worth the price tag.
That's right.
It's worth spending the money on this supplemental feed, or it's worth spending the money to plant this or pull samples or whatever it is that you're doing. As long as you can show people that it's worth it.
Well, I was on the food plot side. I don't. These are not the same, but buddy of mine, Hunter Bryant, down in Bessemer part of the world. He's a turf guy and does a lot of food plots for folks and seed, fertilize, whole nine. But I was talking to him about some of this food plot, and we just I just call it grass stuff. And we were going through it and talking about tracking some of this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I can justify my rates based off of what I can tell these folks we're doing, what's working, what's not. He's like, if I go up and send a bill to folks and it's gone up 10%, and they call me up and say, man, why is my bill 10% higher? What's going on? And if he's like, if I respond, well, I just thought I would try some things, that's not going to fly.
No.
But when you answer with, well, your zoysia had some type of nematode, and we had to treat it this date and this date and this date. And by the way, next year, instead of having to do that, we're going to do something preventative. And here it clicks. Okay, my guy knows what he's doing. I'm not worried about it. He's got evidence. He's tracking what's happening, and that's why I'm having to pay a little bit more. And that's, we were talking about people just throwing money at food plots. At that type with that conversation. And we weren't talking about nematodes. We were just talking about
right, sure.
Records and all that. But it was something along the lines of some of the stuff he was spraying. I can't remember. Look, I've slept since we had that conversation 2 years ago, and but that's the type of conversation that jumps in my mind. And like riding around on some of these properties, you'll look at like a beautiful timber stand, and it'll be just almost immaculate on some of these places, and you're like, all right, well, how'd you get here? And they're like, oh, we just thinned timber and burned it. Okay, when? Did you have to apply a herbicide? Well, I think we did, but I don't remember. It's like, man, if you want to emulate this, if you want to do this again,
we need another recipe.
We need that recipe.
Right.
Let's follow it.
Yep.
And, sometimes you just don't have it. They're like, hey, I just wanted to try something different. Well, my gosh, that's the best time. You want to try something different, write that down. Because if it's a huge success, we want to repeat it.
Yep. Right.
So it's just one of those things. I think the number one failure from both professionals in this industry and landowners and hunters, all wrapped up into one, is they don't take proper records. They don't take good notes.
Yep.
And look, from the hunting aspect, I'm the same way. I don't get that serious into it. It's just for fun for me. Brock, I promise you, he's got a notebook. And all these deer, all these bucks that he's killing, and that's why he's successful. He knows which tree he was in, on what date, what the wind was, what the temperature was. He's probably tracking barometric pressure. But look, these guys that are uber successful are doing all these things.
There's a reason.
Look, I'm that way from a professional standpoint. I am not that way from a hunter standpoint.
Right.
And I know that's why I'm not as successful as some of these other guys.
Well, and I
accept that.
Sure. Well, and even you guys that are like a club president, or you're trying to recruit more members to be a part of your lease, to your club. I can just tell you from personal experience, when somebody says, hey, got some spots we need to fill, you're like, okay, cool. Where are you located? And you get all that information. Okay, how much does it cost per year? What are the dues? And they hit you with a number that's astronomical. Because, by the way, that stuff's has gotten crazy, and it's going to continue to get worse. But when that stuff happens, it's like, okay, now explain to me why does it cost this much?
Uh-huh.
And they go, it's just what it costs. Like, no, like, hold up now. Like,
does that go to food plots?
Yeah. How much are we spending to this is going to food plots? What are we doing with the road system? What are our harvest regulations? What kind of quality of deer are we taking every year? Can my family hunt here? Just all those type things. And it's like, obviously the less people you have involved in a lease, the higher that number is going to be.
Yep.
Which is fine, but you're having, that means lower pressure and all that type stuff. But there's just a whole lot of things where it's like, hold up, man, you hit me with a huge number.
Yep.
And I just kind of need to know before I jump in here, why is it so expensive? And if they can't tell you, it's like, it's kind of a turnoff.
Yes, and some of these clubs are just doing it because others are. Mm-hmm. They see other folks demanding this kind of money, and they go, okay, well, we're going to do the same thing. Our lease went up 10 cents an acre. We're going to charge $500 more because that club's getting $500 more. That's not a good answer.
No.
There are 2 or 3 guys that, from a club standpoint, that I have seen that I would be willing to pay the kind of money that they're asking. Buddy down south, Danny Drinkard and his bunch, and Mark Brenner had one up around Birmingham for a lot of years. But Dennis Wilburn, I think, had one over in Coleman. But here's the deal.
Yep.
You paid a big fee.
Mm-hmm.
You did. But what you got for that big fee was, I'm planting all the food plots. Here's the mixes that's going out. We put generally this much fertilizer out on an annual basis. We feed this many tons a year. We put out this amount of herbicide on these clover fields per year because we've got to keep them in good shape. Yeah. Yeah. We have to have, generally on average, X number of loads of gravel because, we blow our roads out in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. We have to pay this for fire lanes or they have you just a laundry list of where that money goes. And at that point, you can look at it and go, okay, these guys are taking care of the property. I am getting what I'm paying for.
Yep.
When you walk into a place and it's like $2,500, $3,000, and it's like, take off. Okay, so what is the money just for access?
Yep.
And if it is, that's okay.
Yep. Just need to know
just
that.
Say that.
Yep.
Yeah. But these places that are exorbitant amounts of money, or above average, exorbitant maybe,
Sure.
It is to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that can't fathom paying $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year to hunt. There's a lot of people that don't bat an eye at it. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But when you get into those numbers, you want to know what you're paying for.
That's right.
I mean, it's almost like going on an outfitted hunt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Call an outfitter up and go, yeah, man, how much your hunts? Oh, well, they're $6,000 for 5 days. Okay. What kind of success rate do you have?
I don't know.
Yeah, we kill 8 or 10 a year. Okay.
Out of how many hunters?
Yep.
Out of how many acres? How many?
Uh-huh. What weapons?
Yep.
What are they? A lot of people, they're just going to be fixated on how big the deer is. But that's another question is, man, what's your average buck on an annual basis? I don't care about last year. On an annual basis, what's your average?
Yep.
But then what's your top end, bottom end?
That's right.
Detailed. If you're going to be giving good, hard-earned money, the devil's in the details.
That's right. No doubt. Well, man, I think we covered everything that I had. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Jeremy.
Well, I do. I want to get into the deer record side of things.
Well, yeah, harvest records. That's true. Yeah, I mean, talking about what
that is something that, look, guys, it's painful. It's a pain in the ass to take all those records, but it's very, very vital. If you're going to intensively manage a place, it is vital to take those records. Mm-hmm. You need to be pulling jawbones. I hate it. It's terrible.
It is terrible.
But I would be, and I would primarily be focused on your bucks with jawbones. If I were doing it, pull them all, just so that you know what kind of harvest you're getting. Once you get to a level that you are super familiar with that property, that becomes less necessary. If, some of these properties, these guys are intimately familiar with, they know the bucks by picture. When that deer comes in and go, okay, that's that 4-year-old that was over here on King Mountain, okay, I got it. If you're that in tune with what's going on in your place, not that necessary to track that particular record. But weight, some basic antler measurements, and by basic, I ask all of my clients to measure their circumferences, measure their beam lengths, and measure, or not measure, but give us a number of points. Number of points is very, very much something that's not necessary, but I do want beam length, and I do want the circumference.
Right.
Sorry. I want body weights. I don't care if it's live weight or dressed weight. You can do both if you want to. One thing that most people are missing is metrics that are coming from the females, the does. Mm-hmm. I do want to track whether or not they're lactating, and primarily on the does, but it's great to take it off of all of them. Is on some, on properties that are being intensively managed, I want some type of concrete metric to try to track herd health along with what we're doing with the habitat. And the way I prefer to do that is kidney fat index.
Yep.
You don't have to track every deer for that. What I try to do is on our properties, I like taking kidney fat indices at the end of the season where you've had, for your does, you've already had that lactation and birth stress. You've had the stress of the rut, and you're at a primarily one of the lower food quality and volume.
This is them at their worst.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's when I kind of want to grab that. And the way we generally do that is we'll have a doe hunt kind of toward the end of the season with our guys. And depending on how many acres it is, I'm going to give them a target number. And we're going to pull kidney fat index on all of those during that time. And we're going to track that along with what we're doing.
Yep.
And all we are doing is trying to have a finite metric that we can see body condition based off of what we're doing across the landscape.
Right.
And what we hope to see is as we improve the habitat, and maybe this goes back to supplemental feeding, or maybe we've got the habitat, where we know we're pushing against our deer density, that we know we're kind of at that breaking point of maybe don't need to go any higher. Uh-huh. Well, over a couple of years, our kidney fat indices are going to tell us that. Yeah. If we see a drop, we know we're hitting that hard line. Maybe we need to add feed to the equation, or we need to back our deer numbers down.
Right.
So that is something that's concrete we can look at. Look, it's not only is it something that's very trackable and it's easy to do, but really it's kind of easy to see. Mm-hmm. Once you show somebody, man, landowners can open those up and visibly go, oh man, this deer had a problem. Or, if you've got 10 laying there and they all look great, but you've got one that's off, you go, okay, we've got an outlier here. This looks great. We're headed in the right direction. So that's a big one that I like to track. And then one thing that hunting clubs don't do that I think they should do is, I think personally every member should be taking a deer sighting log. Mm-hmm. The problem with that becomes hunters are their own worst enemy. They're jealous or needy or lazy, whichever one you want to pick.
Right.
There's going to be some hunters that'll be like, man, old Jim Bob over there, he's been seeing deer down there at box 19. I'm going to go down there. That's... Or
the opposite. Man, we ain't seeing any deer around here. We're killing too many. We're going to have to back our harvest records up. This is not. We can't shoot as many does. We can't. This is crazy.
And they've never seen an oak tree in the woods. They just sat on a green field.
Yeah, and it's like, man, go hunt somewhere else. That you know what I mean. Like the rest of us are seeing deer.
Yep.
Maybe you're not.
And, yep.
But yeah, that is a problem because, like most clubs, you get people from all walks of life, which is awesome. But you get a lot of, there may be this demographic of guys that's retired, and they spend a lot more time in the woods than the rest of them do. And generally speaking, those guys see more deer because they're in the woods more.
That's right.
Then there's other people who are weekend warriors and have jobs and families and stuff, and they may not see as many deer or may not be as seasoned, may not, just not be as good a hunter or whatever. Right. And man, I can't see a deer, and so-and-so's down here hunting all the time and blowing places out.
Maybe you just stink and all the deer are downwind of you.
Yes, absolutely.
Who knows?
Yep.
But yes, that's a big one that I think gets clubs in a lot of trouble. And look, I know they just don't want the added headache of doing that, but what I have recommended to people, and we say it on here time and time again, the only successful clubs long term that don't have constant turnover are dictatorships. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing that, this will work fine. You can buy just a little notebook, and every hunter takes a logbook. They keep it themselves. They don't share it with the other hunters. And at the end of the season, you hand it to the dictator. It doesn't have any information other than what you saw based off of, buck or doe and what location. Doesn't have anybody's name in it. Doesn't have anything. If you've got a dictatorship and you can do that and your group is honest, you're going to have a real good idea of what's going on your property. Mm-hmm. The problem is most guys don't want to be honest about what they're seeing.
Yep. No.
Because they have the protection attitude of, well, I want to protect my spot, or I've got this goal and I want to see more deer, and I'm going to fudge my numbers. Look, you're never going to have a successful club if you've got those members in there, and unfortunately, a lot of them do. A lot of clubs do. But if you've got the rare club that's got a dictator, and you've got a group that is honest with everybody, mm-hmm. you can do this. You can track this stuff, and you can improve your hunting.
Well, and it's also like when money gets involved, it kind of changes the game too. Like there's people that hunt public land that are somewhat protective over their spots, but they know at the end of the day, this isn't mine. Somebody else gets in here. I mean, it just is what it is. But when I've paid a considerable amount of money to hunt this place,
yep.
then I put my stand up, or I've got my ground blind or my whatever. I've put the work in, and this is something I've paid for. That's when people get stingy and go, oh, well, I'm not telling you anything, because I've spent a lot of money here and I feel like I should have the right to hunt my own stuff, and
that's right. I mean, and what's, the crazy thing about that opinion, the guy next to you spent the same daggum amount of money.
That's right.
He got the same crap hanging out there in the woods, and you're probably looking at another person in that club the exact same way you're looking at him.
Right. Yep.
It's just a big vicious circle.
Yep.
Yep. And a lot of that, I mean, I'm just, hell, it's just being greedy, being stingy.
Yep.
It is what it is. Look, it's in our nature to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
We are fallen creations. We all have that desire to, be a little better than the next guy.
Well, it's just all about me.
Yes. So the sooner you kind of figure that out in your hunting career, the better off you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you can surround yourself with guys that's not like that, the happier hunts you're going to have.
Well, and I think, fighting against that too. Like, shout out to Parker McDonald. He just put out a video about a week ago. I guess September the 1st. And the title of it's just a deer. It's the name of, you know what I mean? Hey, look, man. At the end of the day, what we are bickering over and squabbling about, like, it's a deer.
Strange looking goat.
Yep. I mean, it's not worth. Even Matt's talked about that before. It's not worth ruining relationships and stuff like that. It's a deer.
That's right. Well, and a perfect example. This weekend I was at Dr. Kane's dove hunt.
Mm-hmm.
That we always help with, and got a giant sign, whatever, I think 5th annual Kane Farms dove hunt. And the tagline below that says, "It's not about the birds."
Yep. It's
not. And hunting shouldn't always be about the deer or the elk or the turkey or whatever it is. Good Lord, enjoy the creation, enjoy being with people, have fun. The harvest should be a byproduct of your enjoyment of all the other aspects of it.
Sure. I mean, it's fun to be around those that are like-minded and kind of have the same goals and that sort of stuff.
I mean, I've got to the point in my hunting career that if I'm not generally going with somebody, now that don't mean I want somebody sitting in the stand with me.
Yeah.
But if I'm not going and it's not, kind of a trip to hang out, shoot, man, I can hang at the house and do some other stuff.
I know.
It's gotten to be much more social for me than it was when I was younger.
Yeah, and I mean, there are times where I really just like, look, man, I need to get to the woods and just decompress for an afternoon or something like that. And I still do that occasionally. Like my wife thinks it's the craziest thing in the world, but generally speaking, my birthday is usually a day where it's like, hey, on my birthday, it's kind of mid to late November for me. It's the 21st, and so I'm just going to the woods. Like, what do you want to do for your birthday? I want to go to the woods by myself. And like now that we've got kids and stuff, it's a little different. But it's just odd for most people to be like, you just want to be by yourself on your birthday? Yep. This one day, yes. But now it's like as I'm getting older and even Everett is starting to show a little interest, and you gonna let me go with you this year, Dad? Like, yeah, man, sure.
Let's go.
So let's go. But now it's gotten more social, and you guys have heard me talk a bunch about my buddy Kyle that's kind of gotten into it the last few years. And it is like my mission for this year. Like, we gonna get Kyle a deer with his bow. It's gonna happen.
Lord
Almighty. I mean, we've gone on SOA hunts. We've hunted Jeremy's place.
I know y'all went over there and skunked it up somehow.
Yeah.
Early season is not that way over there. Y'all need to go over there, and Matt's got some people coming in that's gonna hunt on it, I think, for a few days. So he's gonna plant my plots for me because
there you go.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to. But yeah, y'all need to run over there and smoke a couple of deer off those plots before anybody else gets there.
Right. Yeah, that'd be fun. But yeah, I mean that's part of it. Is like, now I'm more excited, and we've put in for the SOA stuff. By the way, if you guys are going to do that, you need to go ahead and apply. I think it's open now. But I mean, heck, I want him to kill one so bad I can't stand it. You know, like I want to be there and help him drag it out of the woods and all that stuff. So, it's part of it, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, but moral of the story: you can't prove successes if you don't know where you've come from.
That's right.
What did you say yesterday?
If you don't have a target to shoot at, you'll hit it every time.
Yeah. Yeah. So
hashtag broadside.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, look, that's perfect. I mean, and it's accurate. Look, if you don't know where you started, you don't know how far you've come, and if you don't have some type of goal to shoot at, you can call it success, but who really knows?
That's right. I mean, sporting events that we all know and love, they all have a scoreboard, and that's how they've declared who's a winner. Whoever scored the most points, that's the winner.
And if your kid's in a league that don't keep score, take them out of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. I mean, that's how we know who wins and who loses. But you don't have that in other aspects of life. So you've got to. When I was in ministry, we used to. I would sit down with our team and volunteers that were under me and even some staff guys under me and go, this is what we consider a win. And I would just go down, here's the criteria. If these things happen, I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care how anybody else on the planet feels about it. This is the goal. And if we achieve these 3 or 4 things, it's a win. And even we would have a summer beach camp trip where we take students on every year. And people, especially, the parents in the room and stuff like that would look at me like I was crazy. But I'm like, we're going to go to Panama City for a week, and we're going to get teenagers out of their routine. We're going to get them away from all the noise up here on the mountain, and we're going to take them there. We're going to expose them to the gospel. Like, we're going to, teach this in a way, hopefully, that's clear, that's, you know what I mean, and is relevant. And it was like, here's the goal for the beach camp. This is what I want. This is we consider to win. Like, I want every student there to have a good time.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, yeah, but what about the gospel, or what about kids getting saved? Look, I hope that happens. It's great. And you know what I mean? That's hopefully long term, that's the goal. If that we don't have 15, 20 kids that get baptized on this trip, that's okay.
That's right.
I want them to leave this trip knowing there are a group of adults that care about them. Mm-hmm. The end. We win.
That's right.
And that's the goal. And people will be like, oh, well, okay. And that might mean that your bunk room with middle school girls, looks trashed or something. Like, you may have to pick up some garbage and throw it away. When we go eat, there may be plates and cups left on the table. You may have to pick those up and throw them in the trash for them. Just do it.
Right.
Like, I want them to pick up after themselves. Well, yeah, I do too. But what's more important here? Like, again, what is the win? Yeah. The win is, let's make sure they have a good time. They know people love them and care about them.
That's right.
The end. You know what I mean? And so,
you're much, much more likely to have a lasting impact if they have a good time.
Yes. And so all that to say, defining what is a win for you on your property. Well, what is a win? What do you consider to be success? Well, define that. Write it down. Take records of it. Are we winning? Are we losing? Are we backing up? Are we making progress? Or, but if you don't do any of that stuff, you don't define it.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you're doing on a property could be a colossal flop, and you get lucky and kill the best deer you've ever killed.
Yep.
On your place. Yeah, that's great for hunting success, but you shouldn't consider that a win.
Is that a measure of continued or a trajectory for success?
Right.
No. You know what I mean? It's a fluke, outlier.
That's right. So, once you start having success, and it's because of these things, and you can keep that up, then continued success is going to follow.
Yes.
But a one-time flash in the pan, go, man, we got things right, and here we go. We keep doing that, and you're like, the next 2 or 3 years, you're like, man, what happened? That was a great year. Well, you got lucky, and unfortunately, you just don't know it because you got nothing to compare it to.
That's right, and that's frustrating too. But
been there.
Anyways, I think I forgot all about the harvest thing. I'm glad you brought that up, but I think that's about all we've worked through here. A little bit longer show than we normally do, but guys, listen, before we get off of here, seriously, if you're new to Southern U, if this is the first time you're checking out our stuff, we appreciate you more than you know. Share with your friends, share some of our content, or just share our, you can invite people. I know on Facebook, if you'll go to our page and click the little dots, 3 little dots on the top right-hand side, you can click on invite friends. You can invite up to, I think, 1,000 people a day. If all of you guys that are listening to this podcast did that, that would mean the world to us.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And you can find us, as far as the podcast goes, any streaming platform, whatever your favorite is, Apple, Spotify, any of that type of stuff. And on all social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you'll see all that kind of stuff there. Hunting season's about to kick off, and we're ready to shoot stuff. We're ready to get in a tree a little bit. Sorry,
some of them are.
And we're also ready to kind of pull the curtain off of a project we've been working on for a while. So stay tuned.
And y'all follow along with Matt. He's the one out in the field right now for the most part, and Bray helping along with several of our other subcontractors. But kind of on that note, if you're looking for these professional services, burning, wildlife management, forestry, drone operators, I mean, heck, real estate, we're mostly all real estate agents.
Except me.
Except for Taylor. Even outside of Alabama, if you're in the Southeast, over to Texas, up to, Arkansas and up to the Carolinas, we've got folks that we can kind of hook you up with if you're looking for these type services. Just reach out to us, PM us, and we can kind of get you directed to the right people if you're not in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, we did that last week. Actually, a guy reached out through Facebook and said, "Hey, I've got a place in Georgia. Really want to know. I've listened to the podcast and know that I need to do something different to my property to kind of make it all it can be. Do you have anybody to recommend?" Like, we sure do. So we got him hooked up, and hopefully he'll share some results with us pretty soon.
Absolutely.
But you guys stick around. We got some stuff coming, but we will see you on the next one.
Out.